Hello, everybody. Welcome to Popcorn Planet. I am Andy Signor, and today we are talking about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Now, look, I know I reviewed the film. If you remember my review, a lot of you got mad at me because I didn't love it. I absolutely respect it. I think it's fantastic that an original filmmaker-driven project by Tarantino was in the top of the summer. People actually bought tickets. Fantastic. Thumbs up. For me, it was just a little overlong, and I just didn't really understand the point. It was a character study, and I appreciate what he was trying to do. It just didn't connect with me, but I'm glad it connected with you guys. That said, news just dropped today, confirmed by Brad Pitt, that Tarantino is now considering an extended version of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood as a mini-series. And if you guys weren't familiar, he actually did this already with The Hateful Eight. The original theatrical version was 2 hours, 47 minutes. And then he made this extended version for Netflix that allowed him to do 4 episodes, as you can see here. 4 episodes at 15 minutes about a pop. So it gets to be about, 3.5 hours. Definitely another, increasing the runtime by a decent amount to give you more stuff that he had to cut theatrically. This idea of shooting films that then he shoots extra of to make extended versions that, let's not underestimate, they're selling to Netflix on top of the film. They can sell a little bit more to give them the exclusive home of the extended versions. There's a value there, but beyond that, Tarantino clearly likes this idea of shooting 2 versions of movies now, and it just begs this question of, is that good? I mean, obviously, if you like the film, you're gonna be like, well, duh, yeah, I want more. But where I'm challenging all of us to think, and I want this dialogue, so chime in down below or hit me up on Twitter and let's talk about it. This idea that a filmmaker can just make the extended version sort of guaranteed, it stops them from having to make some serious cuts that artists have to make. If we're talking about director's cuts, it's sort of a different thing, right? Look at the Snyder cut as an example. Clearly, the studio made the version of Justice League, and they had to for awful reasons. Zack had to pull himself from that film, but it was not the version he wanted to do, and they didn't want him to do that version. It was darker. The Snyder cut is now in demand because people want to actually see, well, what did Snyder want to do? What was his version? And in that instance, when a director is trying to sort of prove the studio notes wrong, and no, this was my vision, the Donner cut of Superman and Blade Runner, there are director's cuts out there that actually are great. So I'm not against this idea of director's cuts, but a film like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Tarantino had his director's cut. It was the film he released. So this idea that now even the director has earned his own director's cut approval and now is on set shooting extra pieces and making those cuts in the editing bay thinking, you know what? That's a great scene. It would be really great for the movie, but we'll just put it on the Netflix version. I got to put something there. That's where the danger for me as a film goer, and I think for filmmakers, where the lines can get blurred. An artist and a filmmaker has to make really tough cuts. It has to cut out some of its children, if you will, if you put it in perspective, from the movie. Tough cuts sometimes where filmmakers are like, God, I didn't want to cut that scene, but it just slowed down the pacing of the film, and it was already so long, and it really took away from the character, blah, 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 blah. Those are reasons that people make these cuts in movies that I think is important for filmmakers to have those choices. So this idea now that any filmmaker, especially ones at Tarantino level that really get Final Cut, can be like, well, let's just save that one. We'll put it on this. Or you know what? Let's shoot a little extra because we can put it on that. That's when we get a little greedy. It's when it starts becoming a little, well, what is the project? Are we making a 4-hour movie or are we making a 2-hour movie? What's your story? That's where I think it gets blurred. Now, a lot of you are going to be excited. A lot of people are like, yes, more, please. I want to see more. I don't care. Great. And this is sort of allows both. And even as Netflix even shows, you get both versions. There's a theatrical, this is the original story, and then there's sort of an extended version where if you really want to get in deeper with the characters, you can. And Brad Pitt echoes this in the statement he made to Kyle Buchanan here in the New York Times. He really does make a good point, I'll be fair. And it wasn't actually in the article. He had it here on Twitter. But they talk about just film and movie-going experiences in general, and that's where I really agree with Brad about what he says here. And I'm going to just read this piece because I think it's important. Brad Pitt is here. The reporter is in bold. I'm curious to see if movies last, if movies stick around. What I notice about the younger generation is that they're used to receiving a lot of information at a much faster pace, and they're more inclined to watch a short series of episodes where you can stay in it as long as you want or jump out whenever you get bored. With a film, to sit there for 2 hours is a commitment that a lot of people aren't willing to make. I love when you can have that transportive experience, but it but I may be a dinosaur. The reporter says, I felt that was part of the reason the Tarantino movie was such a hit, because people were eager to have that experience in a theater, which I agree. Yeah, for us old people, all I know is that you can't fight it. You have to go with it. I'm still going to be pushing for the long form film. Thank you, Brad Pitt. Please keep doing that, because that's where my heart lies. But they almost have to be some kind of event for them not get lost in the vast ocean of content. Amen there. On the other hand, I look at series where you can spend much more time on characters and story and explore angles you don't always get to do in films. So much of these films end up being on the cutting room floor because they just don't fit in that box. That's why I think it's interesting that Tarantino took Hateful Eight and potentially repurposed it as a 3-part series. It's a 4-part series, but I get what he meant. It's almost the best of both worlds. You can have the cinema experience that exists, but you can actually put more content in the series format. This is crucial. The cinema experience, which I think we all agree, and I hope you all do, is important for movies. Of course you want the cinema experience, but then he says you can actually put more content in the series format. And it's just that word content that scares me, because is it character? Is it really story? Is it helping move the plot? Or is it just extra scenes for a quick buck? That's where this can get dangerous. The reporter asks, I've heard this is something Tarantino is interested in doing with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And Brad Pitt confirms, yeah, he's talked about it. It's a pretty arousing idea. And I get why it's arousing for the like of Tarantino, because, it's hard to let go of a movie. And now, oh, cool, I can put all my kids somewhere for everyone to see. And traditionally that format was deleted scenes on a Blu-ray, which, let's be honest, I don't think beyond film fanatics, really a lot of people go through and watch. A lot of times they are just really bad filler scenes that the studio's adding so they can say deleted scenes. It's rare for deleted scenes to actually be valuable, but sometimes there are. And sometimes I've seen some and I'm like, man, why'd you cut this from the film? It would have been a lot better. Even Spider-Man Far From Home, that whole opening, I think, makes the film better. It adds a Spider-Man scene right in the beginning of the film, which it desperately needed. So that's where we stand. It's interesting to me. I'm not opposed to this idea. I think someone like Tarantino, good for him. If he has a vision for both and he can pull those off, I'm interested. I'm intrigued. But now that he's sort of doing it twice, there's this weird worry I have of just a filmmaker being on set and not making the choice to make the cut, or committing to, no, this is what the film needs. Now, granted, if you're filming something extra for the film and it doesn't make it, then it goes away and it's part of your deleted scenes. But now we're going to start making movies that are just going to become, okay, there's the 2-hour version, and then, oh, let's film that for the extra 4-hour version that we can sell to Netflix. I think studios and filmmakers will take advantage of the format if it works. So I do think we have to be careful. It's not cut and dry. What do you guys think? Am I overreacting here? Do you think I have a point? Do you think it doesn't matter? Yes, more is better always. I'd love your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's chime in on this conversation, because I do think it's a complicated one, and I'm curious what you guys think. You can always hit me up on social media. Please do. Try to get my Instagram followers up so I can post videos there. So I'd be grateful if you follow Instagram. Go hit up Andy Signor. In the meanwhile, click out some of these videos. Make sure to subscribe, hit that notification bell, and I'll be back with more videos soon. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Bye.